Hello and welcome to In a Spiritual Sense, where we discuss all things spiritual. From growing your intuition, speaking with spirit guides, diving into past lives, the paranormal, and more, join me, Stacey Piagno, where we work to bridge the gap between science and spirit. Hello and welcome back to In a Spiritual Sense. I'm your host, Stacey Piagno, and today is a very special episode because it is our Season 1 finale. I can't believe it's been a whole year since I have started this project, and today is going to be a monster of an episode. I have tons of information to share, and today is going to be one of my favorite topics. So today we're going to talk about the rhythm of life and how to stay in current with that of nature. You know, there's something in moving with the rhythm of our world that aligns us. It's healing and supportive, and it gives us momentum. I know we've spoken in the past about staying on energetic currents to help propel us towards our goals and the things we desire. And one of the strongest and easiest currents that you can hop a ride on is the current of our moon cycle. So today, please join me for our Season 1 finale as we get into the magic of our moon. You know, lately we've talked a lot about our emotions and expressing ourselves, balancing the light and dark. Well, today this is all going to come into play because our dear sister, the moon, is what runs our emotions. She rules our intuition, our creativity, and our deepest instincts. And she pushes and pulls on these just as she does the tides of our ocean. She's a magnet, able to control not only the tides, but the currents within us. One of the strongest being our emotional currents. And this is so because the magnetism of the moon affects water. And we are, after all, 70 to 80% water. Therefore, whether we accept it or not, the moon plays a major role in the day-to-day energies of our lives. And as the moon shifts through her phases and shifts through the Zodiac, she will produce different energies. And it's not that these energies are the end-all be-all, but if we know what to expect as she moves from space to space, we can use it to propel us, to help us reach our full potential, whether it be for the day, the week, the month, or so on. So today we will talk about two different layers of how the moon affects us. One being the movement of her individual phases, and the other being the movement of her body as she shifts through the Zodiac. And if we can understand the different energies that are present during these times, we can use them to better align ourselves and magnify our energy and intentions for the better. So I first want to get into the different moon phases, what they mean, what they look like, and what they can offer us. You know, I think we all have a connection to the moon. We've all looked up in the sky at some point and noticed the power of her fullness or the elegance of her crescent. But as the moon shifts through her phases, the energies of dark and light will create a rhythm for us to follow. And working with the rhythm of the moon is, yes, something that might seem subtle, but it's something that can truly benefit us and add ease to the natural rhythm of our lives. It teaches us how to goal set, how to celebrate, reflect, and release. And if you think about it, as we see the rhythm of our moon expand and contract, we ourselves can learn through her example how to expand and contract. And we can do this with our physical selves, our emotional selves, our mental or spiritual. The moon offers us growth and support. She teaches us how to move and change as life is always moving and changing. And as we go through these different energies, I want you to think of each phase as a step or check-in that will continue to repeat itself each month. And if we can learn to check in with ourselves and move with each step, we will begin to align ourselves and create a rhythmic way of life that matches the energy of our environment. And we will begin to move fluidly as we were meant to do. So let's break it down. Starting with the new moon, this will be the first phase of our lunar cycle, when the sun is hiding behind and we see nothing but darkness. And as we are consumed with the emptiness of the night sky, it shows us this is the time for fresh starts and setting intentions as we move through the next cycle or month. It's a time for cleansing and goal setting and getting our spaces ready to manifest what it is we want for ourselves. Because as the light of the moon builds, so will we. But we have to first start with an objective, an intention, or a goal or plan. So during this time, some rituals or steps that you can take to get the most out of your energy might be to journal. Write down what your monthly goals are, or take this time to visualize them and mentally create what you want for yourself. And remember, if you are not specific with what you want, how can you receive something specific? If you're unsure or wishy-washy with your intentions, then that's the outcome you will receive. So take this time to definitively imagine what you want for yourself. It's a time of shadows, diving into the subconscious. What is it that you need and want? And how can you take the steps to be a co-creator in the next phase of your life? It's also a great time for cleansing and grounding. Cleanse your space, cleanse your body and your mind. Because if we don't have space to make what we want grow, we will only suffocate our wishes. So use this time to cleanse. Some people might like to use smoke medicine. Find herbs that you connect with and use them to cleanse your air and aura. Take a bath or a shower and have the intention to release all energy that is no longer serving you, so you can make space for new ideas and new intentions. Also take time to rest. This is big because especially in many of our lifestyles, we go. And during this time of the new moon, many of us might feel tired, and that's because it's one of the energies at play. And if we are not taking time to rest or recharge, this tiredness will evolve into agitation or anxiety. And with the new moon creating this feeling of fatigue, she is showing us that we need time to rest and time to recharge so we can then create the space and intentions for what it is we want. So during this phase, it would be wise of us to listen to her when she pulls our energy out of productivity and into rest. If we listen, she offers us a chance to renew and rejuvenate our energy. So during this phase, which is roughly a few days, clear out the old and make specific intentions for the new. Now, as the light of the moon grows, we enter into the next 3 phases, which are known as the waxing of our moon. So you might have heard of the wax and wane. Waxing will be the periods where the moon grows, and waning will be the periods where her light shrinks. So to stay in rhythm with her, we will work to build ourselves and release ourselves. And we will revisit these energies every lunar rotation, which will more or less be every month. So the waxing crescent is the phase that comes after the new moon. This is where we can see that elegant sliver of light that represents our pure potential and the increased movement we will begin to take to initiate our plans into action. And if you think about what we've talked about in the past, as we see the sun start to light up the right side of our moon, it represents the masculine energies within us. Both the sun and the right side of our body produce and create. And side note, yes, the right side of our body is ruled by the left side of our brain. So what we're talking about is not to be confused with the sides of our brain, but symbolically speaking, we're talking about the right side of our physical body, which matches the expanding light of the right side of the moon. So if we are attentive to the moon's teachings, here she shows us it's time to unfold our plans and bring them into action as the side of productivity begins to expand. So with this energy, we now start to feel a current that amplifies our prosperity and abundance. So this is the time to take our most current intentions and put them into action. This is where the work comes into play. It's time to be active and anchor our intentions by focusing on the one most important thing that we would like to manifest in this next phase. Again, you have to be specific. Maybe you want to change your mindset or behaviors. Maybe you want to physically manifest something in your life. Well, use this time to choose something within the mental, physical, emotional, or spiritual self to work on. This is a time for discipline. And as you visualize what you want, bring forth self-confidence. Because when working with energy, our intentions need energy themselves. They need passion to strengthen and manifest. So this is a time to stay focused on what you want as much as possible and be confident that it is manifesting. It is coming further into existence with every second that passes. With that, this is also a good time for positive affirmations. Again, taking a portion of time each day to specifically visualize and embody what it is you want and how you want to feel. Maybe go back to journaling and read your intentions out loud every day. 3 times a day is magic because the power of 3 is connected to creating. And again, speaking our intentions in repetitions of 3 creates matter, but it's all dependent on your discipline to use it. This phase is the time to stay positive and motivated and back up your intention with action. Next, as the moon's light continues to grow, we come across the first quarter, or the half moon in her waxing phase. Here, momentum continues to expand, and we will receive a boost of energy to help us continue with this cycle's intention. Now, when looking at this phase, we see our moon split in half, with an equal amount of light and dark. And this will be important because it reminds us that as we continue to push forward, moments of reflection and balance might be needed. So for example, as we often make plans and set goals, life happens, and we may run into snags or dead ends. So when we come across the half moon, we should use this as a time to continue staying focused on the goal, but also be receptive to any changes we might need to make. If something needs to be reevaluated, use this time to reflect on whether you need to refocus your energy in a different way. Check in on how your manifestations are going and how your mental and physical and emotional state are. Here we will be reminded of how important balance is to our well-being. From here, the last phase of our waxing period is that of the waxing gibbous. This is the last stage before the full moon where the sun's reflection is shining on more than half of the moon, with only a small slice of darkness. Now is the time to be realistic about our intentions. With the full moon upon us, the energy is magnifying. And if there is any energy left that needs refining, now is the time to do it before it becomes fully amplified. I've heard it explained as the time to focus on those goals that are ready to bear their fruits. And if anything seems unrealistic at this point, let it go and focus on those that will bear success. Focus on those that you feel are aligning, and understand that the energy of this time will give us that last push of momentum to propel our intentions into the phase of our full moon, where we will experience the strongest amount of energy and support. During this phase, however, while some may feel a burst of energy, it may also draw out feelings of doubt as our plan continues to work behind the scenes. Remember, not everything will manifest right away. And I think it's important to remind ourselves, as we work to plant seeds, we sometimes need to allow time for them to root and grow into a sturdy foundation before they sprout into reality. So patience might also be something that is important to practice as we continue to trust the process and embody what it is we want for ourselves. Next, the phase we have all been waiting for, that which holds the most powerful and most amplified energy of it all, the full moon. The full moon is the phase that we are most familiar with as the entertainment energy and memes continue to play off of its intensity. It's the time when we hear stories of werewolves and ghosts, when the energy is most amplified and spell work reaches its max potential. But why? Where does this fascination of the full moon come from, and why is its energy so potent? Well, again, this is when the reflection of the sun becomes fully illuminated, directing an enormous amount of energy towards us. And as this energy illuminates the night, it maximizes our intuition, our creative abilities, and just any and all energy itself. So on the one hand, this is the best time for any kind of divination work, spells, tarot, intuitive work, or meditation. It's a great time to charge or cleanse crystals, or even ourselves. On the other hand, however, if we are short on energy, we can easily get wrapped up in the intensity of our environment. We can become easily emotional or anxious. If anyone has children or works with children, their energy could be all over the place. Some of you might know I am currently a first grade teacher, and whenever a full moon comes around, the running joke is that it's time to buckle down and get ready for the madness. And it's simply because everything is magnified. The pull on us is at its greatest intensity. So whether it be the good, the bad, the emotional, it's all going to get amplified. This is why up until this point, we should stay extremely focused on our desires, because at this time, whatever we've been manifesting is going to intensify. I remember when I used to give ghost tours, the nights when we had full moons were the best because I always came home with a story to tell. A lot of times people on tour would rent these different tools, one of the most popular being an EMF meter, which was used to determine how strong the electromagnetic field is around you. And so as spirits pass, they're able to emit this energy, which is one way, among others, that we can tell if they are present. And depending on the strength of the magnetic field, it reflects how much energy that spirit has towards manifesting itself or manipulating its environment. And it's been a while since I've given a tour, but on the nights with the full moon, the meters were constantly going off at the grave sites. And if you guys are interested in ghost stories, you have to go listen to my Halloween episode. Me and one of my coworkers were sharing tons of stories from our time doing tours, and some of this stuff you cannot even make up. But again, it's because with the full moon amplifying all energy, it acts as a charge to allow these spirits to come forth. The veil, so to speak, thins, and we become more closely intertwined with spirit. A quick story I'll share from my ghost tours was one night during a full moon, I took a group out and we were visiting one of the cemeteries. And, I had my usual stories that I would tell, and I would talk about different people who had passed. And there was this one story of one of the judges who used to live in town, and he was buried back in the 18th century. And every time I said his name at a gravesite, my guest's EMF meter would turn red, which shows the strongest pulse of energy. And so after I finished the story, she came up to me and told me this, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. And even though I clearly believe in the afterlife and anything and everything, I will also try to debunk something first if I can, because I know there are many times when people might be scared or they think they see or feel something. And sometimes with EMF meters, if you're not holding it right, it could be a little inaccurate. So, I did believe her, but I was like, maybe he's here, maybe he's not. And so as she was telling me this, of course she would say his name. And every time she said his name, the EMF meter would bounce up to red. And I could see she was holding it correctly. And at one point I took the EMF meter and said his name a few times in context. And sure enough, it kept bouncing up to red. So naturally, started backing away from the gravesite and redirected my group to the next spot, which is a tactic I would lean on when things started to get a little real. So yeah, all energy is amplified during this time, and the full moon is all about power and charging. And something to keep in mind as the full moon comes and goes is that this will also be our transition period from manifesting to releasing. So on the first day of the full moon, it's common for magnifying your manifestations, as the seeds that were recently planted are now on their way to full bloom. So this energy is best used to power up anything you wish. On the second day of the full moon, however, this will be the start of our moon's digression as she transitions into her waning phases. So as the moon begins to reduce her light, this will be a good time for banishing or releasing anything that is not serving you. For me personally, on the night of the full moon, I use this time to charge crystals and work really hard to visualize and embody the intentions I have set for myself. I try to see them through and often take time to meditate and connect with my intuition and spirit. I write a lot and I channel and I connect with my higher self. And this is usually when I have really strong dreams and messages that come to the surface. Then on the second night of the full moon, this is when I start to cleanse my space. I often burn herbs to clear out energy, similar to when we cleansed our space during the new moon. Now is also a good time for cleansing any energy that is manifested and may not be working towards your highest interest. And again, this energy can be something that is in your physical environment or your body, or any energy that is mentally, emotionally, or spiritually blocking you. So use this time to recharge and nourish yourself. Now, at this point, we begin to shift into the moon's waning phases, where she slowly begins to lose light and regress back into darkness. And the next phase we will see after the full moon is the waning gibbous. So opposite of the waxing gibbous, this is where we can still see over half of the moon illuminated, and there's that small sliver of darkness that begins to take back over. And from here until the next new moon, our focus will be about releasing and reflecting on our inner selves. So again, if there is anything that needs cleansing or banishing, now is the time to do so. Especially after the intensity of the full moon. A much needed break might be calling your name, and you may start to notice a shift of calmness after the storm. And something that I just realized as I was writing this episode was whenever I'm having a rough time and there's a lot of friction either around me or within me, it never lasts more than 2 to 3 days in a row. And what I'm referring to is when you're just having a hard couple of days and it just seems like nothing is going your way. We've all been there. And it's so interesting because the moon shifts to a new phase about every 2 to 3 days. And as we're about to get into, she also moves through the Zodiac every 2 to 3 days. So as we've talked about letting our emotions come and go, I think it's also important to understand the science behind it. if we're feeling overwhelmed with our emotions, they will pass. They always do. And yes, there are tricks you can do to release them more quickly, but if you're struggling to release this energy, just sit with it and give it a few days, and I promise it will pass. So again, as we move to the waning gibbous, release any intensity you may have just felt. Also, if you begin to notice any of your manifestations starting to root, now is the time for gratitude. Gratitude is a huge step in the energetic exchange of life. When we give gratitude, it not only changes our perspective to recognize all we have, but it also shows respect to Spirit for helping us achieve all we have achieved. It's important for us to remember that we, humanity, are not the center of our universe. We are not the only consciousness, not even close. We are but a mere fractal of consciousness, intertwined with everything. So when we thank the energies around us, it allows us to open our minds to the idea that everything around us is conscious and everything around us affects our journey. Now, as the moon continues on her path, we then move to the third quarter half moon of the waning phase, where we will dive deeper into self-reflection. So if there is anything that did not manifest during our waxing stages, we should take some time to reflect on why they did not come into being. So starting with the waning gibbous and moving to the half moon, it'll be a great time to reevaluate everything you've currently been working on and begin to refocus your intentions for the upcoming new moon. Again, this is another time to bring balance into your environment. Up until recent, we've been working so hard, and now is the time to slow back down. As the moon's energy decreases, you might feel yours start to do so too. So as we take more time to rest, we will move from productivity to reflection. Similar to the waxing half moon, this is a great time to release anything that may be holding you back. Again, bad habits, toxic relationships, or situations that drain you. Now is the time to push aside any obstacles so we can begin to create space as we step closer and closer to the next new moon. Lastly, the final stage to complete this lunar cycle will be the waning crescent, as we see one last sliver of light on the left side of our moon. Now is the final stage to release and reset yourself. Now is when we enter into the time of self-care and healing. Reflect on all you have learned this cycle and maybe journal what it is you can do better as you step into the next cycle. Do the things that rejuvenate you. Meditate and spend time with yourself. And get ready to soon move into another new moon where you will then create more space to move through this process once more. So, that's pretty much the basics of working with our moon phases. Of course, you may develop your own rituals or even other meanings. Whatever comes up for you or feels right, follow that. And you can get as complex or simplistic as you like. But I think what's beautiful about this is the alignment we step into with the natural world and the attention given to building ourselves and manifesting what we want. Because when we're giving ourselves and our needs attention, beautiful results are produced. So, take a quick break if you need, digest this, and one last thing that I am going to quickly go through on top of the moon phases are the different energies that are present as our moon shifts through the 12 zodiac signs. As most of us are probably familiar with, we all have a zodiac sign that we are born under that represents a core part of our personality or the special quirks about us. And there is so much here that I cannot even begin to get into right now. But one thing that we can talk about is what happened as the moon passes through each of these spaces. So the very basics of how it works is that the sky is divided into 12 zodiac zones based on the movement of the sun as it crosses the sky. And after charting 12 moons over the course of a solar year, these 12 spaces became known as the zodiac. And as the sun is in each of these spaces, different energies will be at play. And what's cool is that when you really get into it, the energy will shift depending on where the planets are in the zodiac. And the way we can learn more about our personality will come from the location of the sun, the moon, and the planets during our time of birth. So the zodiac sign that most of us refer to when we talk about our zodiac is the sun sign. And this, of course, will be dependent upon which zodiac sign the sun is in during the moment of your birth. And so the same way the moon pulls on our emotions, other planets, including the sun, will pull on other energies within ourselves and within our environment. And this creates personality types within us and energetic currents around us. And again, there's a lot more to it, but this is a good starting point. So when specifically dealing with our moon, there is one aspect to understand that deals with where the moon was during our time of birth. And this will play a role in the characteristics of our emotional state and how we engage in relationships. So similar to your sun sign ruling your conscious state, your moon sign is going to rule your subconscious state. It basically represents the inner you. And again, this is known as your zodiac moon sign. So there's this, but today, we're going to discuss the moon's energy as a collective as she enters and leaves each zodiac zone over the course of a month. And the concept is that the moon's energy will basically amplify the characteristics of each zodiac sign for the duration of time that she is in that space. And again, I am just going to quickly touch on each sign with their correspondence to the moon. So just understand that there is a lot more to it than what I will cover today. Now, if you are unfamiliar with the zodiac signs, one thing that will benefit you is the understanding of the 4 elements. And I know we've talked about this a lot on previous episodes, but again, this is the element of fire, earth, water, and air. And the way the zodiac works is that each sign will fall under one of these elemental energies, and they're all equally spaced out, causing us to rotate within the elemental energies over and over again. So, for example, we go through Aries, which is fire, to Taurus, which is earth, to Gemini, which is air, to Cancer, which is water. And then it continues on to the next fire sign, earth sign, air sign, and water sign. And we rotate through each of these elements 3 times, which will complete one rotation of the zodiac or one full year. So, to start us off, the beginning of our zodiac starts when the sun enters Aries, which begins around March 19th to 21st with the vernal equinox. Many of us know this as the beginning of spring. This is the time when the sun is exactly above the equator and our day and night are of equal length. And not only does this mark the beginning of spring, but also the astrological new year. So this is where the zodiac begins. Now, as the sun moves through each sign, which is more or less each month, the moon will travel through each sign every few days. And when the moon is in Aries, we have a lot of that fiery energy. So feelings of passion or bravery will be at an all-time high. This is also a good time for starting new projects and creating or being physically active. Again, fire is about doing, and it supports our motivation. But on the flip side, we need to be cautious of our temper because during this time, we may be influenced with impulsive behaviors and we may be quick-tempered. Next, when the moon enters Taurus, which is an earth sign, we may have feelings of peace and serenity, and comfort will be our top priority. As an earth sign, this also brings about focus on the material world. So you may want to focus on your finances or long-term projects and relationships. Something to watch out for, however, will be getting too comfortable. So laziness or a reluctance to let go may start to surface, or getting complacent with habits will also be something to keep an eye on. Also, Taurus represents the bull, so stubbornness may also creep its way in. After Taurus, the moon shifts to Gemini, which is an air sign, so it's all about communication. Gemini energy amplifies the social and curious aspects of ourselves. So it's a good time to communicate and learn. We may also feel super chatty or up for discussions, but be wary of getting caught in gossip during this time. Next, the moon moves to Cancer, which is a water sign representing peace, quiet, and safety. Cancer energy can be very healing, but this is also a time when we may feel extremely emotional or sensitive, which could go both ways. If we are in tune with our feelings, we can use them to heal and reflect. If not, we may feel overdependent or easily defensive. Especially with the moon itself being a ruler of our emotions. When it is in Cancer, again, this is going to be magnified. It almost gives off that full moon intensity. So after Cancer, the moon goes on to another fire sign, Leo. And during this time, things will be dramatic and you may feel very fired up. Leos are notorious for being in the spotlight. So during this time, you may feel extremely outgoing. This is a great time for getting out of the house, maybe going on a date or to a party or other exciting events. However, something we need to be cautious of is falling into the comfort of overindulging. Again, everything is about balance. And if we know what to expect during this time, we can prevent any unnecessary behaviors. So for example, if you are someone who lacks self-confidence, use this time of Leo to lean into yourself and all you love about you. But on the flip side, if you are someone who is very confident, be cautious of how you may appear through the lens of others. With Leo energy, our confidence is magnified, and it could easily rub others the wrong way and create distance. So, after Leo, the moon shifts to another earth sign, Virgo, which adds awareness to the details of our life. So during this time, the energy supports our focus and organization skills. It's also a very intellectual sign, so dealing with anything work-related or solving problems or making plans will easily flow during this time. However, with this, something to stay conscious of is not to micromanage things or people, and try not to over-criticize. Keep things constructive. Next, the moon moves to another air sign, Libra, which is all about balance. Libra is the sign with the balance scale. So as the moon sits in this space, we may have feelings of harmony. It's easy to stay open to both sides. Also, apparently, the moon being in Libra adds a little bit of romance to your life. So maybe this is another good time for a date. Things to stay cautious of as the moon enters into Libra is being indecisive or getting caught as a people pleaser. Remember, although you may be seeing things from both sides, it's still important to take a stand when needed or stay true to yourself. As the moon continues to move, she next enters Scorpio, which is a water sign that exudes passion and intensity. Again, being water, this is a time of deep emotion. So it's important to reflect on our fears and habits and release anything that's holding us back. And because we may feel super deep at this time, stay conscious of what may be bubbling in your mind versus what's happening in your reality. Sometimes Scorpio energy can cause suspicion to emerge because we may be feeling overly protective, layered with lots of passion. Next, after the moon leaves Scorpio, she then enters Sagittarius, which is my moon sign. Sagittarius is a fire sign that represents energy and optimism. You're going to want to go with all of your ideas, and sometimes you don't think twice, which we have to be careful of. But during this time, we're definitely feeling adventurous. It's a great time to push yourself out of your comfort zone, but just make sure you don't move too fast and get all your thoughts together before making any big decisions. Next, we move to the earth sign Capricorn, which is about work, work, work. This energy very much supports us with our career goals. We may feel super resourceful. Remember, the qualities of the earth signs deal with that of the material world. So this is a great time for tackling big projects or focusing on career moves. Again, maybe finances or things of that nature. However, one thing to be aware of during this time will be making sure that we do not become too rigid. It will be important for us to stay flexible because the energy during this time might cause us a bit of closed-mindedness. After Capricorn, the moon then moves to Aquarius, which is our last air sign that leans very much into the intellectual side of things. Aquarius energy often has little room for emotion, but is great for collaboration, teamwork, and brainstorming. Remember, air signs are all about communication and the mental side of things. So as the moon rests in Aquarius, these are the qualities that we should lean into. Last on the rotation, the moon enters Pisces, and this is the time for complete fantasy. Your intuition will be heightened, as it will be with any of the other water signs. So this is a great time to be creative, dive into art and the dream world. Let your subconscious lead you and stay open to anything that arises. But as we embrace our creativity and emotions and the fantasy of life, we may fall a bit out of touch with the world around us, which at times is needed, but just make sure that as we step into our solitude, we don't get too caught up in our dreams and shut out those who we're close to. So these are, again, the basic energies of each sign as the moon spins through the zodiac. And I know this has been a lot of information, but if we can even just understand the concept of how the moon plays a role in our lives, we can shift into a state of proactivity. Think of how much more aware we would be if we knew the energies knocking at our door each morning. And again, it's not that these energies are the end-all be-all, but if you pay attention to where the moon is and the way you're feeling and the vibe of each day, you will start to notice currents and rhythms that repeat themselves. So why not use it to our benefit? Swim with the current and see the ease of life unfold. So with this, I will leave everybody with one last good thought as we finish season 1. Actually, a few weeks ago, I was feeling a little all over the place, and I went to sit in the backyard, which is my calm space, and I asked my spirit guides, why am I feeling so anxious? And the response I heard was, enjoy everything you do. And I realized I was getting caught in the future with things I needed to do, or the doubt of if things will work out. And I was misplacing my trust with fear and worry. And so I was again reminded to stay in a constant state of presence. Because when we choose to enjoy every second we're in, we lose the anxiety of the future. We lose any regret of the past. Bringing ourselves back to present allows us to see what is unfolding right in front of us. And it gives us a chance to experience life to the fullest. So as we naturally fall into the past or future, because it happens, just always remember to pull yourself back to center. Remember, the energy around us will always be in a state of change, but with awareness, we can learn how to stay centered as life continues to swirl around us. So that's it. That's all I got for season 1. Thank you guys so much for all of your support. Again, please keep in touch through Instagram, where I will be posting weekly inspiration and tarot readings. And again, if you want a private reading, please email me at info@inaspiritualsense.com. And if you hear or see something that inspires you, including this episode, please share it with those you love. And I will see you next time on season 2 of In a Spiritual Sense. For those looking to connect further, please feel free to send emails to info@inaspiritualsense.com or hit me up on Instagram at spiagno, that is SPIAGNO, where you can find weekly inspiration and updates. I look forward to connecting with you.